So for anyone who has noticed, I've been doing loads of work on the website recently, and I'm really happy with it now. It's really, really good. It's a really good website. There's lots of information on there, and I've put loads of little features on where it's just kind of a little bit more interactive. You can just basically tap on things or open other pages and literally explore it. You learn all about petitioning and all the laws that affect the right to petition, and just the history of it. But I'm also starting to put all the investigations up now, which I'm glad I got done before Gemini got downgraded in May, which they try to cover up, but it was a lot better, which has made it a lot harder. But I did manage to get quite a few investigations done, so I'm going to put those up and all the information. It actually amounts, when you actually add it all up, it amounts to quite a lot. But because they realised Gemini was basically too good, and basically I don't think Google and the elite actually want us to have it. It literally, I would say it's a little bit like you're not allowed fully automatic weapons, right? They're illegal. The public you can't even have a gun license to have a fully automatic weapon. Gemini, they hadn't realised it, but Gemini was actually too good because it had all these Google capabilities in the background, which it was making use out of to get information, and it was using a lot of Google privileges to do it, when normally people can't get to that information themselves, but Google could. And people who realised where the information was coming from and what you could actually get could utilise that, and it was a formidable tool, right? It was basically you could just become a private investigator into loads of things, get statistics, all sorts. Now, sometimes they said that it was making the statistics up, but if you got it to check them and double check them, you could actually get it confirmed. But I mean, the more information but this is what the elite are wanting. This is the entire world plan for this Oracle thing, whereby, these elite can just, ask a question, what's John Simpkins doing in, Jamaica now at 3:00 p.m., and you just know it, right? And then this AI is working everything out and calculating everything, to basically the power to know anything or everything, right? Even when we're meant to have the right to privacy, but they don't actually want us to have the right to privacy, which is the way that the European government are going, even though they've got the Human Rights Act in 1998, supposedly all of Europe, they're just ignoring it. This is Eurovision. Eurovision is basically the fact that they actually don't know what the fuck they're doing. Well, they do know what the fuck they're doing, but they're trying to make, it's they are just lawless. They made this act in 1998, the EU, and they're just it doesn't acting if it doesn't exist. These people want to be, if they want to say when they want to say, right, a banana is an apple, they will bloody do it, right? And no one else can have a say in it. They can even go into they want to be effective. These people want to be able to go into a courtroom, right, on live TV to the world, put an apple on the table and say, that's a fucking banana. You will all fucking accept it and believe it, slam a hammer down, a judge makes an order, and no one can do a fucking thing about it, right? And people don't even challenge it. They want to be able to tell you that, it's you could be holding a book, and they want to say, if I tell you you're holding a fucking, bunch of grapes, you're holding a bunch of grapes when we tell you are, right? They want to defy fact and truth. And effectively, basically, right, this is what they're doing with the Human Rights Act, with the right to life, clearly states in the English language, right? It's like you open the fucking Ladybird book when it says, A is for apple, B is for bear, right? John opened his door and walked down the street. What did John do? John opened his door and walked down the street, right? Can you understand that? We're learning, it's not a law. Do you know the law? Well, once I've read the act, yes, I do know the law, right? Because it's fucking written in English, right? When it says a government cannot take life away from anyone or have any laws that do it unless it is through a criminal procedure, right? Then that's what it fucking means. But these people with their assisted dying act, not satisfied with the fucking letter of the law, they're like, it doesn't mean that. And there's some rubbish case in Switzerland, it's like looking through your pocket for change on a fire. I'm 5p short. I'm checking through my pockets. Like, I must have like a 10p or a 5p. It's like, can you imagine you go to the fish and chip shop, right, and you're 5p short, and you're going through all your pockets trying to find some change. Can you let me have 5p? No, you need the money. Right? Can we have this assisted dying act? Well, actually, there's that Switzerland case, isn't there? Oh, he's going through the fucking pockets. What have we got? Oh, yeah, there's that Switzerland case. Rinse, rinse it, have you got anything? Oh, just a minute, let's have a look. Let's have a look through the, look at that Switzerland case. Oh, I managed to pull one, you're about to defy the written word in the most basic and fundamental fucking sentence construction ever. And then to try and convince the whole nation that they can fucking do it, right? They pull the shit, the crappiest, worst case out ever, right? To make out that, it's compatible, right? I've got 450 cases to prove the right to petition. 450 cases, right? And the courts won't even accept that. And yet the whole government is convincing the whole nation that, it can do an act of law which explicitly the new constitution, the 1998 constitution of Europe, says you can't, right? And they're still doing, never mind, they're not upholding the 1688 constitution. These people can't uphold anything, right? They are obsessive compulsive liars. And then, the right to privacy in Europe, right? Which is, now they're, say all cars have got to have, cameras in, recording your facial expressions and stuff like that while you're driving. This goes back to Larry Ellison again, an oracle. What actually Rights Act meant is when we've taken away all your privacy, so there's absolutely none left, we're going to leave you a little bit of a, if you beg, and plead or apply for some kind of fucking privacy license or get a court order, we'll let you have a little bit of privacy if you get a court order, right? Larry, I've made videos about Larry Ellison before, but people like that are demented, right? And this is where it comes down to what these companies and businesses have been doing to us, right? It's a little bit like the Combinations Act. The Combinations Act were acts that prevented workers from basically combining together or working together to hold their employers to ransom or to force them to lower wages or basically to coerce or pressure them into doing certain things. Whereas we're allowed to, petition the government or protest the government, those Combination Acts basically said that workers cannot join forces to use manipulative force to get employers to do stuff for businesses, which basically gave them a form of political immunity, right? But yet, that's actually what Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Google are actually doing. The tech people, as Mark Zuckerberg and Nick Clegg likes to call them, right, are combining forces and using strategies like, Starbucks, we're not going to accept money now, so we're going to force you to use cards, and then the government's going to force they're combining and joining forces with the banks and the whole lot to force us into having digital ID, whether we like it or not, just because, Tony Blair thinks it's a good thing or whatever. And the government has gone along with it, and, the whole social media thing, they're using manipulative force by the businesses just stopping accepting money. It forces you to get a card, and then you don't have any cash, right? So, everyone, you can't live unless you have a credit card with a bank, right? So you can't just live with cash and not have a digital bank account. So what they're doing is it's like what they made it illegal, so workers could not do that. So the people could not force or coerce the businesses to do this or that, right? That the people wanted. It was so owners of companies, executives and board members and factory owners weren't actually under the control of the workers. The workers were under control of the factories, right? Although you had strikes, but refusing to work until you made wages or whatever, but there's a lot more detail to it than that. But, effectively, there was lots of different provisions for it, which you've got to go into and read it, but it's a similar thing. What they're actually doing is all the business owners and companies are doing a handshake, and it's called leverage. They're leveraging us, and they're doing strategies, and it's all this they're even competing with each other until, they're all bought out, with BlackRock, and then it all comes under shareholders and directives and so forth. So everything that they made it illegal for us to do to stop us dictating to companies how much they should pay us, or what our working rights should be. Don't take it with the companies, take it with Parliament. Why are these? These companies are actually combining together to get what they want out of us. So I think it's illegal. But then you've also got monopolies as well, which is what Google is gradually becoming. Got a monopoly over search engines and lots of other things, right? And then whenever, the thing with Google is whenever you're enjoying yourself on it, they always change it and ruin it and they'll spoil it. They're a big spoiler. And you might say, well, why don't they make it in the first place? Yeah, but why change it, why not let people use what their favourite version is or their whatever. So I think Google wanted to make Gemini good, but then they realised it was too good, and it was almost like we'll sell the Indians Winchester rifles, but we won't sell them Gatling cannons, right? Or whatever. Almost kind of like that sort of thing. So they got to make sure that they don't give us too good stuff, or else we'll end up using it to our as long as we can't use it to our advantage, and that's the thing with Google. It's like giving out free sweets or whatever. We'll give you all these AI programs in order so we can monitor you and use the data and to our advantage or whatever. It's always leveraging advantage at the end of the day. So there's lots more to talk about, but I just wanted to make a video because I haven't made one for ages, and just basically say that I've been updating the website and there's all kinds of stuff on here now. Really happy with it. I won't mind getting some more signatures on the petitions. Some people just have the knack. Like I was speaking to a guy who got 250,000 signatures on a ULEZ petition, and he just put it out on the groups and it just took off by itself, right? I think that whenever you're doing particular petitions that are intelligent, they don't normally catch on. It usually wouldn't, and that's why Parliament don't let people do ones that are appealing. You could make the petitions a lot more appealing if they'd let you do them on the main website. So it's actually difficult, but I've actually got them going now. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. But I've got some more investigations to add.